Bonjour YouTube, welcome back with another early access video. In today's video, we're gonna discover everything about Zibai. So yeah, I got access to a creator server. I was able to test a lot of things with her, her teams, her combos, her rotations, different weapons and builds as well. So we're gonna see that today. And unfortunately, I was not able to test the Stygian Onslaught with her. For some reason, it wasn't available. I think it was closed already or something. So I won't be able to showcase some Stygian clears. If I tried a bit earlier, I think I would have been able to, like if I tried like when I was testing Columbina, but unfortunately I got it there too late. So it's just going to be world bosses. Yeah, I will tell you everything you need to know about her kid, her gameplay, her best teams, etc. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And let's get into it. So first, Zibai is the second character like Columbina that will be able to enable Lunar Crystallize in your teams. And she's basically going to be a main DPS that deals Lunar Crystallize damage. So what does Zibai do? First, she infuses her sword with Geo after you press her skill to start dealing Geo damage. The cool thing with her is that her fourth normal attack string will deal Lunar Crystallize damage. So when you do her full normal attack combo, she will deal some Lunar Crystallize on the last hit. And while you do those normal attacks with her skill activated, she will generate some energy that you can spend to activate her special skill that will deal extra damage. So the energy that she gains during her skill is called Phase Shift Radiance, and there are multiple ways through which she can gain that energy. Every second she is in the skill stance, she will gain 10 energy, and every time she hits enemies with normal attack, she will gain 5 points as well. If you are in the Moon Sign Ascendant Gleam, so if you have two Nokrai character in your team, she will also generate 35 points of Phase Shift Radiance every time a party member trigger Lunar Crystallize. It works when she's the one triggering the Lunar Crystallize as well, so you don't necessarily need a Geo Construct or an off-field Geo character to be able to generate that energy. Her Lunar Phase Shift stance has a duration of 15 seconds, so it will either end after 15 seconds or after you do 4 enhanced skills. You can also extend the duration of the Lunar Phase Shift stance by 1.7 seconds when you use her burst. Keep in mind as well that her burst deals 2 instances of damage, and the second instance of damage is considered Lunar Crystallize. First passives makes it so when she uses her skill the first time or when you trigger the Moon Drifts, so the Moon Drifts are the little statues that you spawn when you trigger Lunar Crystallize, the damage of the second hit of her special skill will be increased by 60% of her defense. Now her second passives makes it so you kind of want Geo and Hydro only in your team, because every Geo will increase her defense by 15% and every Hydro will give her 60 extra EM. And also gotta keep in mind that Iluga also want only Hydro and Geo in the team, so you don't have as much flexibility here. And then finally, her last passive is similar as the other Nokrai characters, where depending on how much defense you have, she will increase the base damage from Lunar reactions from Lunar Crystallize. So here for every 100 defense, she's gonna get 0.7% Lunar Crystallize base damage increase up to 14%. So you want at least 2000 defense on Zibai. And then finally, her last passive is pretty fun. She regenerates energy at night when you're out of combat. So you can just AFK and you will get your burst back. She's going to scale with defense and she's going to ascend with crit damage. So in terms of weapons, she actually has a decent amount of F2P options. Of course, they're going to be much worse than her signature weapon, but you still have a lot of options. So of course, her signature will be the best option. It gives 88 crit damage, 20 defense, and an extra 64% Lunar Crystallize damage bonus. So this is huge for her, of course. And unfortunately, you can't really use it on anyone else. You can kind of use it on like Chiori or Albedo for the defense and the crit damage, but you can't really use the last passive. So it's insane for her, and it's it's much better than the rest of the other options. But she still has a lot of options, honestly, that are very, very competitive. So the second best option will be Uraku Mitsugiri, so the weapon from Chiori. Very good. It gives 88 crit damage and also 20% defense as well. So technically, it's almost the same minus the lunar crystallized damage bonus. And after that, basically every other options will be very similar within 1,000 or 2,000 damage range from each. So in order of the best, we'll have the craftable from Nalan. That is actually going to be the best third option for F2Ps. So the Flute of Espitzal gives 69 defense and another 32 after you use your skill. Considering you use your skill every single time, every 5 seconds or something, with Zibai, you will get the buff pretty consistently, and it's basically 101 defense, which is huge. Right behind, you will have Shidoden's weapon. It doesn't give crit value, but it gives a shit ton of defense as well. 82.7 defense substat, plus you get another 16 from the passive, so that's almost as much as the craftable. But as I said earlier, 101 defense from the craftable. Here you're at 98 or something, so it's just slightly better. I mean, it's slightly worse. The craftable is slightly better, but it's also a very, very solid option. And then finally, the most F2P option is going to be the Harbinger of Dawn. It's a little bit worse than the rest, despite the crazy crit value that you get. Your defense suffers a lot. So Zibai already has so much crit from her passives, from her Ascension, from the set, from potentially Iluga if you have the Iluga C6. So she already has so much crit. Harbinger is still great. It's almost the same as the craftable, but yeah, the craftable is still slightly better. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going Harbinger when you can just craft the Nalan weapon for free if you have the resources. But if you don't have any resources, Harbinger is going to be great. Last one, if you have Cinnabar Spindle from the event from a long time ago, from the Albedo event, it's decent, but you can't really use the passive because her damage is not considered elemental skill damage. It's literally just lunar crystallized damage, so you're not going to get the 80% skill damage buff. I mean, the 80% skill damage buff is not going to do anything, so it's okay for the 69% defense, but as you can see, just the craftable from Nalan is already much more defense. And once again, all the weapons that give elemental damage bonus or normal attack, skill damage bonus, etc., all these passives will not work on Zibai, just like they don't work on Nefer, just like they don't work on other lunar characters, because the lunar reactions are calculated differently and don't take these damage bonuses and elemental damage bonuses into account. So as you can see here, with the same setup as the other weapons, Zibai is doing almost 200k with her signature weapon. So the difference between her signature weapon and, let's say, Chiori weapon is not that massive. Even with the Nalan craftable, it's not insane. But once again, when you optimize the builds perfectly, and when you get C6 Iluga, or when you bring in Goro, it can be a bit different results. But overall, it just goes to show that her signature weapon is not game breaking, and you don't need it for her to be a very good DPS. Now, when it comes down to the artifact set, she's going to use the same set as Nefer and as Flynn's, the Night of Skies Unveiling. You will be looking for basically as much defense as you can, and most likely a crit rate circlet, since you are ascending with crit damage, and if you get her signature, she gets a lot of crit damage, and if you don't get her signature, all the other weapons give no crit or like mainly defense. If you're using Harbinger of Dawn, though, you might want to go for a crit damage circlet, because Harbinger of Dawn already gives so much crit rate. In terms of energy requirements, she doesn't really need that much energy. A little bit, like 120, 130 will make you very comfortable. I'm getting my burst on cooldown with 130 every single rotation. I can spam my burst basically every time. And also, if you get some EM substats, so of course you want crit rate, crit damage, some defense substats. If you get some EM, it's also decent, since EM contributes to lunar crystallize. And as I said, 20 or 30% energy to be comfortable. In terms of talents, you want to max out her skill and her burst. Her normal attack talent doesn't really do anything, so just make sure you focus on the skill and the burst. If you can crown the skill, it's great. The burst is not really, like, you don't necessarily need to crown it. It just deals a decent amount of damage and scales with her defense, so it's pretty good. When it comes down to the Constellations, I'm not going to tell you you should go for this or you should go for that. I don't really like recommending Constellations. If you like the character, of course, Constellations are nice, but you definitely do not need Constellations for the character to be strong. Her C1 makes it so when you use her skill the first time, she will gain energy instantly, so her phase shift radiance will go to the max, so you will be able to skill instantly, and it increases the limit of how many special skill you can do in one rotation to 5. So instead of 4, you can do 5 before the end of her stance. And your first special skill after your normal skill will have increased damage, which is a pretty big increase. So her C1 is pretty nice, gives you a decent amount of extra DPS. Her C2 is huge, literally straight up 30% lunar reaction increase, lunar crystallized damage increase. And on top of that, if you have Moonsign, Ascend, and Gleam, the second hit of her special skill will be increased depending of her defense. So her C1 and C2 are pretty huge as usual, like it's a big increase. And if you really want to make her a top DPS, this is where I would go if you really want to invest in her. So the C4 is interesting. It says that Zibai's normal attack sequence will not reset. So I assume if you're dashing or if you're using her skill or her burst or something like that, it will continue the normal attack sequence after the animation. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not going to be able to test it, and I don't really want to test it right now. And also it makes it so her fourth charge attack will deal 250% of the original damage as lunar crystallized damage. And finally, the C6 makes it so she will gain more phase shift radiance, so the energy during the special stance. So she will gain it faster, 50% faster. And now it will consume all the energy. And for every point above 70, it will deal extra damage. So this is going to be pretty insane. It's going to be a massive amount of damage. It can elevate the damage by up to 48%, which is insane. As mentioned in previous videos, elevating the damage means that the final number will be increased by that amount. So 48% damage increase straight up to the final number you will deal to your enemy is absolutely crazy. It's going to be huge. So in terms of teams, her core team will be Columbina Iluga. This is going to be the best investment for Zibai. Columbina is the best support for Lunar teams in general, and Iluga is going to be the best one for Lunar Crystallize at the moment, especially if you're able to get C2 or C6. C2 will give Iluga some off-field geo that he doesn't have at C0, so it makes him being able to use some other set that can work off-field. And at C6, he gives a ton of crit value for Lunar Crystallized reaction and geo damage in general. So he's going to be very nice, and also with his kit, he gives a decent amount of damage bonus overall for Zibai. But he's not necessarily mandatory, especially if you get him at C0, like you can find some other options. But first, let's go over this core team. So Columbina, Iluga, Zibai, and then the last slot can be almost anything. I would recommend, I mean, personally, from my perspective, I enjoy Zhongli a lot. It gives you the shield, gives you some Geo Res Shred, gives you some construct as well for the resonance. So I feel like Zhongli is almost, if not the best option, but you can also put almost anything. So you can put Chiori, you can put Albedo, you can put Goro. You got to keep in mind as well that you do not have a healer in this team, so Zhongli is also pretty nice for that. Goro can heal a little bit at C4, and also you can just use a Hydro character in this slot as well. So you can do Yelan, you can do Kokomi, you can do Xingqiu. I wouldn't recommend Furina because no healer. Unless you go Protap Ember on Columbina, it can be a decent option. And yeah, the last slot can be basically anything, any Hydro, any Geo. And you can have fun with that. It can be Noel as well, honestly, for dual, some sort of dual DPS or whatever. It can be Ningguang, something like that. So you can have fun with the last slot, but the core of the team for maximum damage is going to be Columbina Iluga. After that, if you're not using Iluga, you can still do double Hydro, double Geo. You can put Zhongli, you can put Albedo, Chiori, even Shilonen. You can do double Hydro, Shilonen. Shilonen gives Res Shred as well, so you're gonna shred the Geo, so it's not terrible either. And yeah, honestly, from my testing, I love playing with Zhongli and Iluga, but the team is pretty flexible as long as you stick to Hydro and Geo. And finally, in terms of rotations, it's pretty straightforward. I tested some weird woke cancel after playing so much Skirk and Mawika and stuff like that. I was trying some weird like woke cancel or dash after normal attacks and stuff like that, but I couldn't really find anything like really good and consistent. You really want to get that fourth normal attack on Zibai's combo to get that extra Lunar Crystallized hit. And honestly, the best thing I found is that you can cancel that fourth normal attack animation a little bit with the special skill. So 4 normal attacks into skill repeat when Zibai is on field, and it seems to be working the best, honestly. I can't test on DPS dummies or anything here because on the creator server we don't have access to those stages of Melee Astra, but that's what felt the best. I'll show you maybe a few a few clips of like what I tried with like the walk cancel or dash cancels, but it doesn't seem very good. But yeah, if you want to maximize the phase shift radiance generation, so her energy and her special stance, having an extra construct can be very, very nice to just have more lunar crystallized procs with the resonance and stuff as well. If you're using with Zhongli with the moon drifts, it can be super, super nice and makes your rotation super smooth. And honestly, I think that's going to be it for this Zibai early access. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Stay tuned for more showcases, maybe a few in YouTube Shorts, or maybe I'll make another video with fun teams on Zibai. And then, yeah, I'll be pulling next week as well. I'm really excited for her. She looks beautiful. And yeah, stay tuned for that. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.